What's cracking, big dogs? Welcome back to the channel. This is the first time I've done a solo video in a long time. I've been real lazy. I'm not going to lie. I could say I was busy with school, but then again, I'm really not doing much for school at all. So hopefully I graduate this year. We'll see what happens. But the aim of these videos, hopefully going forward, is I'm going to be reviewing what happened Thursday night. I was hoping to get this one out like early Friday morning or like right after the game. But after seeing what Gardner Minshew did, I mean, your boy was real sad. He's like my favorite player in the league. The dude went out there, looked like a complete garbage can. We'll get into it more in the video, but hopefully you guys enjoy this type of content. If you do, give me some feedback. I know next week is the Broncos versus the Jets, I believe. They fucking stink. I don't want to talk about either of those teams or any of the players on either team, especially not Melvin Gordon, that fucking asshole. So without further ado, I mean, I don't have an intro for this, but like, let's hit some sort of intro. All right, we're going to start off with the Miami Dolphins side of things because I think we should save the best for last. Myles Gaskin seems to be the man in Miami. And by the man in Miami, I mean he gets every single touch, every single snap between their own 20-yard line and like the 3-yard line on the other side of the field. I saw some stat that Jordan Howard's on pace for like 64 carries, 80 yards, and 16 touchdowns. He is the biggest vulture in the NFL. Like Myles Gaskin looked legitimately good out there the entire game. And then once they get down inside the 5, inside the 2, inside the whatever, Jordan Howard's fat ass gets in. He plunges his ass into the end zone, and it's 6 every single time. So Myles Gaskin is somebody who, if he's on your waiver wire, go out and spend 20-25% of your fab on him because he is a workhorse back. The only concern I have is, one, he's on the Miami Dolphins offense, which, I mean, they're not terrible, but they're the Miami Dolphins offense, so they're not great. And the scoring opportunities, if he doesn't break off a 10, 15-yard run or a 10, 15-yard reception, not much is going to come of it because he's not getting those looks inside the 5, which is really what you want out of a running back. On the flip side, which we'll talk about later, is a guy like James Robinson, who towards the end of the game wasn't playing at all, but then they got that pass interference in the red zone, in the end zone, advanced to the 1-yard line, and take out Chris Thompson. James Robinson runs it in. So Myles Gaskin does not seem to be that guy. On top of that, Ryan Fitzpatrick, the guy went to Harvard. He put up a 48 on the Wonderlic test, yet he doesn't give a damn if he gets CTE or not. Every single time he's outside the pocket, head first, like he's playing baseball. He does not care if Kiko Alonso or whoever the hell is headhunting on the other side of the ball comes at him 90 miles an hour. He's going head first, and most of the time he picks up the yards that he needs to gain. So he's a quarterback that is sneaky because I know in Dynasty, nobody ever wants to draft a 38-year-old or however old he is type of quarterback. But in like the 18th, 19th, 20th round, when people are taking guys like Andy Isabella and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and other frauds that are probably never going to give you startable weeks, you can get yourself a Ryan Fitzpatrick who plays the Jets twice a year and who gets good matchups like the Jacksonville Jaguars and is legitimately startable. As for season long, I mean, it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. There's no commitment there, so if they do go to Tua, it's easy enough to drop him and then stream him. But looking at the Dolphins' schedule, I guess next week against the Seahawks could be good playing from behind. But then against the 49ers, the Broncos, the Chargers, the Rams, that's going to be tough, the Cardinals. So he's not somebody I'm looking to pick up and, play for a bunch of weeks in a row. But next week does seem to be a good matchup for him. As far as the receiving game goes for Miami, I mean, you heard Troy Aikman all night. All he kept saying was Devontae Parker does not look 100%. Yet every single time he was thrown to, he caught the ball, except in the red zone where he got a PI against him. So I don't care if he didn't look 100%. Those Jacksonville Jaguars cornerbacks, I know week 1, I believe his name was CJ Henderson, the rookie. He looked good. He looked like complete fucking garbage last night. He could not guard anybody. Preston Williams caught a touchdown. He isn't really a high volume type of play like I thought he'd be this year. I know in his rookie year, he showed like good chemistry with Josh Rosen, which is kind of an oxymoron because Josh Rosen can't even like find himself a team and find chemistry with any type of coaching staff or anything. So he definitely isn't the number one in this offense. It's pretty much a tie between Gesicki and Devontae Parker. I guess if you want to go and buy low on Parker, you probably should because this was an easy matchup. He didn't have a great game. You have to keep in mind, week 1 and week 2, they played the Patriots and they played the Buffalo Bills, 2 very good secondaries, 2 teams that both like to use shadow coverage with their top cornerback on a guy like Devontae Parker. I know I just said that they have tough matchups going forward, but if he's going to be an alpha on a team that's going to be playing from behind, even against a tough defense like the 49ers, they're going to be playing from behind in that game. They're going to be throwing. He's going to be getting a majority of the looks. With Mike Gesicki playing out of the slot and just being a mismatch, he's going to be a big part of that red zone offense like we just saw. He's not the best after the catch, but the thing is when you're catching the ball in the end zone every week, you don't have to be good after the catch because all you got to do is fall down. They put their hands up for 6 and you're good to go. And I guess that's it for the Miami offensive side of things. Defensively, that team looked pretty solid, and I guess we'll touch on it with Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew had no time to throw, despite what Troy Aikman and everybody in the press box said about DJ Chark being a huge loss for this team. More than anything, it was the time that Gardner Minshew didn't have to throw the ball. Like DJ Chark is somebody who runs deep down the field, a lot of the time, and that's how he gets open. That's where he gets a lot of his receptions. DJ Chark getting open down the field wasn't something that was going to happen with how much they were pressuring him. Maybe they wouldn't pressure him and send as many guys on a blitz if DJ Chark was out there because they'd have more legitimate weapons. But the Jaguars' offensive line, pass blocking wise, looked absolutely abysmal. I know Minshew missed Chris Conley on that one touchdown, like down the right sideline, because they basically sent like that Madden Engage 8 where everybody runs up the middle. He just threw it up right off the snap. And the thing is, like, Chris Conley wouldn't have caught it anyways because that guy's a fucking bum. I think he had like 5 targets on the night. He caught like 2 of them. He dropped 2 of them, and he had offensive pass interference on another one. If you have Chris Conley on any roster of yours, even if it's a super thin league or you have to start like 7 flexes, just cut him out of respect for Gardner Minshew, because that was a completely abysmal game on his part. And I'm not completely taking away the blame from Gardner Minshew because he didn't look great. He took a lot of hits that he didn't need to. There was that one play where he like ran to the right. It was like a 3rd and 2 or something. And instead of just walking 2 more feet to get the first down, he did a little underhand flip to, I think, James O'Shag Hennessy. That was real ugly. He just looked like he wasn't comfortable out there. People are already calling for them to draft Trevor Lawrence and be in contention for the 101 again because he had a bad game last night on a short week, despite him throwing 6 touchdowns over the first 2 weeks of the year against divisional opponents that were supposed to be good defenses. So everybody's got a real short memory. And because of that, I think that opens up a good opportunity for you to go out and buy Gardner Minshew, because you look at his upcoming schedule. First off, they get a long week. Hopefully DJ Chark will be back. Hopefully they sort out whatever happened along that offensive line. I know the left tackle got thrown out because a referee was trying to like punch him in the face and he bench pressed him off of him. He got a little buttered up and he tossed his ass out of the game. It didn't really matter because he wasn't doing much while he was still playing. But next week they get the Cincinnati Bengals. That is a very, very soft defense. Then the Houston Texans, again, soft. Lions, soft. Chargers, even bias aside, that's a tough defense. So I'm not going to say that he's somebody you want to start that week. But then after that, they get the Texans again, the Packers, who they're going to be playing from behind in that game. The Steelers are tough. The Browns are soft. The Vikings, Sharman, Titans. We just saw what he did against the Titans. The Ravens playing from behind in that game, but that's also a tough defense. The Bears, they're so-and-so, and then the Colts. So a lot of those games coming up throughout the rest of the season, he's a viable starter. I wouldn't want to bench him just because he had one bad game against Miami, because as I said, with Brian Flores, Miami's defense isn't as bad as they look on paper. And by look on paper, I mean when you see the name Miami, you just automatically assume they fucking stink, which isn't really the case this year. I mean, week 1, they held the Patriots to 21 points. Week 2, I think the Bills put up like 31 on them, but that was a tightly contested game. The Bills have a very good offense, so that's not taking anything away from how good Miami's defense has looked so far this season. So I wouldn't just say that this is the Gardner Minshew we should expect for the rest of the season. This is still going to be a team that has absolutely zero defense, like we just saw. That's been a common theme for them throughout the first 3 weeks of the season. They're going to be playing from behind. Gardner Minshew is going to be throwing. He can run the ball. He had over 20 rushing yards last night. I think he had like 19 or 18 exactly the first 2 weeks. So he definitely has that type of floor built in. And if we want to talk about rushing floor and rushing ability, we got to touch on James Robinson. This kid is fucking legit. And I'm going to look at like the top 12 consensus running backs right now, looking at ESPN's projected points. I mean, that's probably the best way to do it because, they're very accurate in everything that they do. I shouldn't be talking because I tell people to start players that put up 2 points and tell people to sit players that put up like 50. So let's just look at what ESPN had projected this week for top running backs. Like Kamara, Elliott, Dalvin Cook, Taylor, Jacobs, Sanders. I would take all those over him. Obviously, Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler. But then you get to like Kenyon Drake, James Conner, Melvin Gordon. I mean, Chris Carson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'll take ahead of him. But I don't know. I think when you get to that range of like a James Conner, a Melvin Gordon, Devin Singletary, Joe Mixon, Todd Gurley, I'm taking James Robinson over all these guys because not only can he run the ball. I know last night wasn't the greatest example of it because he kind of didn't have the best yards per carry for whatever that matters. I mean, he had a couple big runs. 11 for 46 is nothing to scoff at, especially when you consider he had 1 rush for 1 yard and it went for a touchdown. But the guy over the past 3 weeks, he's put up 17 touches, 19 touches, and then 17 touches again. And you got to keep in mind that they were never, this might be hyperbole, but I know last night they were never leading. The week before they were never leading. I'm pretty sure week 1 they were never leading. He's the guy who has seen the workload and the snap share of a workhorse running back despite playing from behind and despite playing catch up in every single game, which is what you like to see because although you can say, oh, well, it's an offense that's never going to be able to pound the rock and chew clock, that doesn't matter because they're feeding him regardless. I mean, week 1 against Indy, 16 for 62, not great, but then 1 for 28 through the air, so he had a 90-yard game. Week 2 against Tennessee, a defense that we thought was going to be good. He put up 120 yards and a touchdown on 19 touches. And then last night against Miami, their run defense isn't great. Their pass defense, I mean, the pass rush is a lot of the reason for why they looked so good last night. 11 for 46 and 2 touchdowns on the ground. That first touchdown run was really reminiscent of like a Doug Martin, just like a bowling ball just running through somebody. But then through the air, 6 for 83. And you see that he is a good receiver. He's not just catching little screen passes out of the backfield. He's running angle routes. He's catching them below the waist. He's actually a good receiver. And I know that Chris Thompson was out there a lot, and that's something to be concerned about in the 2-minute drill. But what we saw was, when I brought up earlier, Chris Thompson was on the field for that 2-minute drill, and he was on the field a majority of the second half just because they were playing from behind. But when they got that pass interference in the end zone, guess who came in the field, and guess who they trusted on the 1-yard line? It was James Robinson. So every single time that they're in that position of the field, he's going to get the ball. And I know a lot of people are worried about Raquel Armstead or Divine Ozigbo taking the job over. There's a reason why the coaches had so much faith in James Robinson. There's a reason why that they're showing that faith in him by giving him these touches. And to me, actions speak louder than words. They said he was going to be the guy. He's been the guy. And the coach there right now, Jay Gruden, has so much love for Chris Thompson. And the fact that they're using James Robinson so heavily, even in the receiving game, over a guy like Chris Thompson, just tells me that there's no reason that an undrafted guy that they have no ties to, and Divine Ozigbo coming off the IR, is going to take his job. Raquel Armstead, who, Leonard Fournette wasn't going to lose his job last year, but he did nothing to prove he should keep his job and keep a workhorse workload last season. And Raquel Armstead did nothing in order to challenge that. So I don't see a reason that either one of those guys eats into his workload heavily. Maybe he goes from a 20-touch guy to like a 15 to 16 to 17-touch guy. But if he's getting the passing opportunities out of the backfield as he's seeing right now, and the goal line work, which I doubt is going to change because of how good he's looked in both aspects of the game, he's going to be a top 12 to top 15 running back. And touching on the schedule that I brought up earlier, as I said, this is a really cake schedule for the team. And although they're going to be playing from behind a lot, he's going to get his opportunity because they've been playing from behind a lot already, and he's still being able to produce. So he's somebody that, if you want to buy high on him, I'm all for it, because people know that everybody watches Thursday night game. They saw how good he was, and they're going to be trying to sell high. But I don't think that they're going to be selling high enough. And if you have him in Dynasty and people are trying to buy him off of you, I'm not settling for anything less than a 2021 first, because I know that, a 2021 second is really good return for somebody who got off the waivers. But the potential that he has to be the workhorse running back for this team, because he's extremely cheap on an offense that's rebuilding, I doubt that they want to spend a first, second, third, fourth round pick on a running back next year, especially if James Robinson is in the fold and still producing. He's going to be the running back of this team's future. And I know that's pretty brash to say after 3 weeks, but for how good he's looked, he's basically just Clyde Edwards-Helaire on a worse offense. And I don't see any reason for Jacksonville to want to spend any sort of capital or any sort of real money on the position. Then again, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars, so I'm never going to put any dumb decisions past them. But for how it looks right now, he seems to be the guy there. As for the receiving game, no tight ends of note. James O'Shag Hennessy is an absolute fraud. He's tatted to the gills, and he can't do anything with the ball in his hand, so I don't worry about him. Chris Conley, also, that guy's got to go. I know he had like 775 yards last season. He actually looked legit. You can run fast, you can jump high, you can do whatever the hell you want, but at the end of the day, when you're looking like Edward Scissorhands when the ball's coming to you, it gives me absolutely no confidence. D.D. Westbrook, I'm surprised this guy is still in the NFL. He was like a healthy scratch the first 2 weeks. He's returning punts. He's not even on the field. He had that one catch inside like the 10-yard line, and he got stuffed right away. He is somebody that I am not interested in at all. I don't know why I'm talking about him, because I know that you guys don't care about him either. As far as Laviska Shenault goes, he's fucking legit. He is what everybody wanted N'Keal Harry to be. He is what everybody wanted Antonio Gibson to be. I know he didn't look great last night, but he is somebody who I think as the year goes on, he's going to get more and more involved in this offense. We see him line up in the backfield. We see him line up in the slot as like a tight end type of thing on the outside as well. So he is somebody who's extremely versatile. I know we wanted more out of him with DJ Chark gone, but he's a monster after the catch. And we got to realize also that he was hurt a lot of the offseason. He like pulled his hammy or some bullshit during the 40-yard dash. He was dressed like MC Hammer with one of the loosest fitting shirts at the combine I've ever seen, yet he still ran like a 4.59 at 230 pounds. He is I'm not going to pull out like my eye test, but he's like a 4.4 type of guy, and he's extremely strong with the ball in his hands. Although both of those statements are subjective to me, I think everybody can agree that he's an absolute monster on the field, and he's going to be a staple of this offense going forward. So in Dynasty, if you want to buy him for a 2021 first-round pick, honestly, if you don't project that to be like a top 5 or 6 pick, and you know that because the team that you're selling the pick off of is not a tanking team, I'd go for it, because he looks like the real deal on an offense that is going to be throwing a ton, because their defense is a lot of pieces away from being competitive. And then as far as DJ Chark goes, I know he wasn't out there last night, and maybe he is a big enough piece to have impacted the game as much as it looked like it did with him sitting last night, because their offense couldn't get anything moving. Hopefully with a long week to rest and heal up, he will be back in the fold against the Bengals. And if they have a full arsenal of weapons, I'm starting a lot of these playmakers on this team. I'm starting James Robinson. I'm starting Gardner Minshew. I'm starting not Keelan Cole. Fuck that guy. We all thought he was going to be an animal. He had a decent game, but we expect a lot more out of him. I'm going to start DJ Chark and maybe even Laviska Shenault, depending on what the reports say about him getting more and more involved in this offense as the year goes on. But those are my instant takeaways from the Thursday night games. If you guys enjoyed or you want some more like in-depth analysis, this was kind of just like off the top of my head what I saw and the trends that we've been seeing throughout the past 2-3 weeks. Just let me know. I can definitely do a little bit more research, but I'm hoping to get these out a little bit earlier than I'm going to get this one out. So that might not be possible other than like a few one-off tweets I see before I put out the video. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you liked the thumbnail because I worked hard on it while I was supposed to be paying attention to my marketing class. But, you know, some things are bigger than sports and some things are bigger than school. And fantasy football reigns supreme. So thank you guys for watching. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.